Today I will be talking about the usage of tablets in schools and how they are causing a negative effect on the minds of growing children. And the reasons are that tablets are creating barriers for students, and they are an unreliable source for their education, and they are also creating health problems. Going back to my first statement, tablets are creating barriers for students, and what I mean by that is that a classroom is meant for social interaction, and what tablets do is they shift learning from a teacher to learning from technology. A Pew Research Center survey found that nearly 90% of teachers believe that digital technologies are creating an easily distracted generation with short attention span, and also it hinders about 60% of students' ability to write and communicate face-to-face. Also, according to federal data, richer school districts get more funding than the poor districts, and Chicago Public Schools report that they are spending about $40 million a year on technology, which shows that students that go to poor school districts might not get the same quality of education as those that go to the rich school districts. Also, some students can find a way to cheat and cut corners using tablets. About 76% of teachers believe that students are conditioned by the internet to find quick answers, and they are losing concentration as well. And that is also from the Pew data survey. Also, some families might not be able to afford internet or might not have the best one to keep up with the tablets. And this is coming from an English teacher, Andrew Flattery, and he is a veteran educator who reports that many of his students cannot afford computers at home and do not get enough time to use them at school as well. And tablets are more susceptible to theft than textbooks. So according to a recent study done by Kingston, it reveals that one laptop is stolen every 53 seconds, and we would hope that a kid isn't getting mobbed for his tablet, but it is a possibility. My second statement is that tablets are an unreliable source, and technology can malfunction and data can be lost. So the National Cybersecurity Alliance reported that annually 31% of tablet users get hacked or their information gets lost. Also, tablets are expensive, and if a child were to drop it and break it, their education might jeopardize if they can't afford to fix it. According to a primary school from South Dakota, if there is computer damage or tablet damage, the student has to pay for the repair costs. And they also get charged a $25 fee for protection, and if they it's pointless for the fee because even if they do damage the tablet, they have to pay for it. If they lose the tablet, they have to pay an additional fee of $250. Also, research done by EDUCAUSE reviews show that students who use textbooks over tablets have a greater memory and comprehension, and they do better in class and on standardized tests. Also, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development looked at the computer use and realized that students that use tablets do have a lower reading and lower math test scores. For my last statement, tablets can create health issues. Learning from tablets can cause eye strains, headaches, and blurred vision. And according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, they report that tablets emit what is called microwave radiation, and that can occur 900 times in an hour, and that is linked to cancer, so reducing contact with tablets is recommended for children. It can also create chronic neck pain looking down at the tablet, and that's because there's strains in the back muscles, so it can cause about 60% of tablet users report back pain, and this is coming from the Chiropractic Association. And lastly, it can cause antisocial behavior, or can cause students to be antisocial, and that's leading back to the research from the Pew survey, that children are having a harder time communicating with one another and interacting, which can lead to antisocial behavior down the road. For my concluding statement, the use of tablets in schools is creating a negative effect on the minds of children, and it is important to broadcast these problems because they are the future generation. Thank you for listening to my proposition.
All right, the original proposition is kind of cloaked in a question rather than a declarative statement, so you want to make sure that you clear that up. The preview is okay, but it basically just lists topics, and you want declarative sentences for those secondary claims. You're a little bit better when you get to the body of the speech because you do have a tendency to give a declarative statement for each of those points as you get to them, but I thought that they seemed really rushed, and it's almost as if you just have the term at the beginning in the preview. You are rushing through the opening section of the speech, and you need to kind of explain why this is a controversy. Who is replacing tablets? Who is replacing textbooks with tablets? Is this a trend? What percentage of the population? Is this a voluntary action on the part of students who are trying to reduce their carrying textbooks, or is it something that the schools are pushing on the students? And are you talking about elementary school students as opposed to college students? That, I think, needs to be clarified a little bit as well. The signposts on the body of the speech, like I said, I thought you did a little bit better identifying what your claims were there. There's an argument that says there's a shift in learning to tablets. That's a presupposition. I think the shift is to electronic-based communication. It's a tablet is perhaps in some cases that it's a laptop or even a desktop. In others is probably also true. I didn't get any information about how many students are using tablets compared to like 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It seems like that would be something that would show that this is an increasing problem. So that's some background information that would be helpful. That teachers have a problem with the tablets. I think that's, you've identified what the teacher's opinion on that is. I'm not exactly sure that that's automatically, even though it's got a statistic on it, it's really just a survey of what their opinion is. We don't have any other data other than the perception of the teachers in those particular cases. What's going on in the Chicago School District and how much money they spend, I guess that's how much they're spending on tablets or some kind of technology. That was a little unclear. I wasn't sure if that was a lot or a little for the city of Chicago, $40 million for electronics in the classroom. I don't know that is a particularly large amount. What percentage of their budget is that? I don't know. And are there districts that couldn't afford that? That seems to be the assumption that you're making there, but I don't get any information that suggests that this is a budget buster for districts if they were the ones supplying the tablets. Let's see. Then there's some more opinion evidence about how the tablets work. And then there's a bunch of information about what happens if it gets lost or damaged. There's this kind of argument that talks about how the electronics get stolen every 53 seconds. I kind of like that statistic, that's much more like who's going to be stealing a history book or a math text. I think that makes a little bit more sense. The idea that the tablets get stolen, that makes more sense. That is, that there's a continuing cost. Again, that's one of those things where is it borne by the student? In South Dakota, apparently it is, because you've got that one example, but I don't know what the situation is in the rest of the country, and especially if they're self-selected. So like students get their own tablets, and some are using Kindles, and some are using iPads, and some are using Samsungs, and some are trying to get by with their phone. That's another issue. You've got a quote from a teacher who says that some families can't really afford the internet. That's probably, I'm sure that it's true that some families can't afford the internet, but that doesn't necessarily mean that people don't have access to the internet. They certainly should have access at school. That's when they're supposed to be using the tablets. There's access in other places. That's another issue. And like I said, in context, that seems like it's an old argument. That really feels like something from 10 years ago. Most people, I don't know what the penetration level is for internet access. That would be one of those things that you could quantify and maybe make a stronger argument here on that particular point. Let me see. And then we talked about the financial responsibility, who's losing those things. Then we had a little bit of information about health risks, neck pains, that kind of thing. That's okay. Again, I'm not exactly sure why that's any more prominent than it is in other sorts of reading, for instance. The microwave radiation risk seems like it's a bit of a stretch. The antisocial behaviors, that I think probably could have been developed a little bit more. That might have tied in with your first point also. All right. you have places to go and things to do, go and do them. Here you go.